Hey guys, I'm in the garden and I'm gonna be ruthless and pull out some plants that are really, they're done. They've done what they need to do. They need to come out. And I wanna teach you how to recognize when to pull plants, when they've given you their all, and when it's time to make room for new. But before I get into that, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button so you're notified anytime we put out a video. Okay, so look, we've got this beautiful cauliflower that actually, I didn't even really know it was over here because it was totally engulfed in all of this nasturtium and needs to get harvested. It's starting to actually open up, and now it's still completely edible. It's gonna be absolutely delicious, but you can see it's the florets, the immature flowers are starting to open up, and it's only gonna go downhill from here in its quality, both its texture and its sweetness. So it needs to come out of the garden. The longer I leave it in here, well, the less delicious it's gonna be. So I'm gonna pull this out. Now, for those of you who are new gardeners, it's important to note that, particularly with cauliflower, it's a one and done. Once you cut that head of cauliflower, this plant is not gonna do much else. In fact, the only thing that this is good for, you can eat it, absolutely. You can stir fry it just like you would kale, collard greens, anything like that. But what we're gonna do is just give it to the chickens because they love this, and it needs to come out of the ground, so I'm actually going to cut it right at the base. And I'm actually gonna leave that in the ground. And the reason why is it'll naturally kind of just rot, and it will add to the organic matter in the soil. Instead of me ripping it out and pulling out all of those good nutrients and organisms that have developed around the roots, I'm just gonna leave them there. But you wanna know something really crazy is in zone 9 and 10, I've definitely done this and actually had the plant re-sprout the following year because it didn't die because our weather is so amazing. So fair warning, that can happen. It's not a big deal. This will likely rot. I'm just gonna leave it in the ground like that. This is either gonna go, you could eat it, it can go in the compost, or for us, it's gonna go to the chickens. They love this. So here's another example of a crop that is really, it's given us its all. You can see that there's still some little broccoli florets in here. We've harvested the main head. So you can see the main head was harvested here, right? Boom. And then we have these nice little guys here, which are absolutely delicious. Now, broccoli is a rad plant because once you harvest the main head, you can keep clipping all these little guys. And most broccoli varieties will give and give and give and give, and it's really amazing. But I'm tired of eating broccoli. We've been eating broccoli. I've been giving broccoli away to my friends. I mean, we've had a lot of broccoli this season. So I'm actually gonna harvest these last little bits of broccoli heads, cook them up, and the rest of this plant is actually gonna go to the chickens. You can see here that it's starting to flower. And also the other thing that's happening is it's been in the ground long enough. You see that? Ooh, yummy. Some extra protein for you. Those are aphids, which happen for a lot of different reasons. One reason why you can get aphids on your broccoli is if we have a lot of warm temperature, which we actually haven't had. We've had fabulous cool weather lately. But the other thing is just age. This broccoli has been in the ground since August, okay? We planted it by seed in August and it got transplanted out, okay, maybe in September. So it's been in the garden for a really long time. It's really starting to become weak. And what happens is these little aphids, they know. They say, attack that one. Doesn't have a lot of vigor, and it's only going to get worse. So I don't actually even want these guys to be colonizing in my garden. So I'm gonna pull this up. I'm gonna get rid of it. Along with this one as well, you can see it is also starting to bloom. And chickens will love that. You also can eat them. You can eat the broccoli when the flowers open. The flavor just starts to kind of not be as fabulous. So what's important to remember, if you're a new gardener, it's very easy to get stuck in this thought process of, well, why pull out the plant? It's growing, it's green, it's happy, or at least you think it's happy, and you want to leave it in the garden because you want to get the most out of it. Well, sometimes that can actually be a detriment to your other crops because, as you can tell, this whole thing can become infested with aphids, and you're basically having an aphid buffet here. And also you have to ask yourself, am I getting anything out of it that I want? Am I able to continue to eat off of it? Is it worth having in the garden? Right now we're in January, and for me particularly, I'm done with the broccoli. I've had enough of it, I'm good. I'm already thinking about tomatoes starting next month, okay? So I'm way ahead of this broccoli plant, and I know that it's not gonna give me much more as our days get longer and our temperatures get warmer. So this needs to come out of the ground for me, and I'm gonna make room for our spring crops. Now, some other really popular examples of crops that, you know, have given their all and are done, I like these lettuces here. So I've been eating this lettuce for months on end now. We've been doing what we call like the haircut or the cut and come again, where we're cutting it. You can actually see here, right, where we actually cut it and we ate and we harvested, but now it's going to flower. There's no undoing this. So this plant has already become bitter and I can't reverse that. So some people might think, oh, well, let me just come in here and you can see where I harvested before, cut this off and then it'll keep regrowing. You see all that milky sap? That's an indicator that the plant is biologically changing its patterns and really putting a lot of energy into flower and seed, which means it's not going to be tasty. So these guys are done. They need to come up out of the ground. And the best way to do that is very easily just to chop them at the roots. I'm not gonna pull these plants out of the ground because again, I wanna leave that organic matter in there. Now the chickens are gonna love these, great for the compost, but they're done. I wanna get rid of them. Here's another example, my arugula. I've been eating this arugula nonstop for, it seems like months on end now. It's given its all, it's starting to flower, and there's no reason to leave it in the ground unless, and this is a really good example, I wanna leave it for pollinators. Now you can see all the bees flying around this plant. They're so happy. This is a bok choy that we let go to seed. And wow, oh my gosh, I didn't even notice. There's like 50 bees. There's so many. This plant, it's not hurting anything. I'm gonna leave it because the bees really love it and because I have a lot of other stuff to take out of the garden right now. But I'm not gonna leave it for that long because I do need this space for my warm season crops. Again, leaving this in the ground it's feeding the pollinators, but it's not really gonna feed me. So luckily I have enough space that I can leave it. Now another consideration here, especially if you're in zone 9 and 10, particularly San Diego County, and we have all of these beautiful, almost invasive wild nasturtiums. They look really great, but you gotta ask yourself, are they doing any good in the garden? And I'll tell you why. I've totally made the mistake of leaving these in the orchard. They grew up one of my orange trees and really did a lot of damage. And I was heartbroken because it was a very important orange tree. And I'll give you an example. You can see here, look at this guy. So this cauliflower was planted at the exact same time as the other cauliflower, but because it's been wrapped up in all of this nasturtium, it really has suffered because it hasn't gotten enough sunlight. It's competing for, oh, here's another example. It's competing for nutrients. It's just really not very happy. It's got a little bit of caterpillar poop on there. So the point I'm trying to make is don't be afraid to pull things out of the garden. I know it's hard, and I know especially as a new gardener, when you get something to grow, the last thing you want to do is pull it out, right? But sometimes for the benefit of the whole garden, it's really important, especially right now or at any time that we're in a season change. So for zone 9 and 10, we're in January. And come February, we're actually gonna start some of our tomato seeds. And come January, February, March, we're actually gonna be full spring into, not full spring, we're gonna be full speed ahead into spring. So we really don't have a lot of time left in the garden for these cool season crops. My focus right now is going to be clean up as much as I can, eat as much as I can, utilize what is growing, and make room for next season's crops.